There's some published reports out there that this individual, the roommate, may have been transitioning. Did that correlate with what you saw?
Yeah, definitely.
He was going to have an operation to be to turn into a woman.
Yeah.
And they were kissing.
Yeah.
The roommate. Police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson. The roommate told police that the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting, and he did provide those messages to police. On September 10th, 2025, the roommate received a text message from Robinson which said, "Drop what you're doing. Look under my keyboard." The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, quote, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it."
All right, Jack Posobiec, we're back live here, Human Events Daily. We're on with Liz Wheeler. We're talking about the twisted world of Tyler Robinson and Lance Twiggs and this toxic relationship. And Liz, we were just chatting during the break, but it wasn't just alcohol. It wasn't just the leftism, which has come out in so much of these leaks, the hatred of Charlie Kirk, and all conservatives really, but also the rampant use of, we talked about alcohol, but also drugs and something called black market HRT.
Yeah, and this might be another one of the underreported aspects that's truly critical to this story. This insider, this friend of Tyler Robinson and Lance Twiggs, describes Lance Twiggs as not just drinking too much alcohol, but as a frequent user. I think he said he vaped THC, that he used shrooms, he used LSD, he used Molly. He describes him as a heavy drug user. In addition to the fact that Lance Twiggs, obviously born a biological male, was at some point in the transition, quote unquote, to a female, meaning that he was identifying, it seemed maybe when he wanted and when he didn't want, as a female. But that identity or that transition included using hormone replacement therapy that wasn't prescribed to him by a doctor, that he had gotten just from a local drug dealer, I suppose. That's how you get drugs on the black market, meaning we don't know the dosage. We don't know if it was contaminated. We don't really know what was in it. We don't know how this was affecting his mental state. I mean, for all we know, this could have been something that was more toxic than just hormone replacement therapy is in and of itself. Let's just say that. And the way this friend describes Lance Twiggs' life, it seemed like this drug use was not just frequent. It was most frequent during the periods of mental instability in Lance Twiggs, periods of time when he was going days and days without sleeping, when he was obsessively talking in gibberish to ChatGPT, when he was having tantrums in his own room, when he was screaming at people for touching his trash piles in his nest. I mean, it's all connected, Jack.
Oh, it is all connected. And what's interesting, too, is that when you look at, and I'm just going to say it, there was another piece there where the friend, the leaker, mentions that he believes that Tyler Robinson was, shall we say, sexually inexperienced, that he was a virgin when he moved in with Lance Twiggs. And I realized while looking at some of this stuff and reading through that it actually sounds like this was incel behavior from Tyler Robinson's case, that's okay, he's an incel, right? So we certainly have heard so much of that. And so many times where these downwardly mobile white males have, kind of been in this incel community, but here's one yet again who is responding in an enraged fashion, incel rage, which is certainly something that's been studied. But in a way, it's almost like, and this is just my opinion. I'm not saying this is in the evidence, but it's almost like he was searching for a way to lose that virginity. He was searching in a way to be meaningful in engaging in these extreme behaviors, the drugs, the perverted sexual activity, the furry behavior, the furry porn, the cub porn. All of this is a sort of way to dive in after having been, considered himself an incel prior to this, and then just kind of overdoses on these internet subcultures, completely snaps. And in a way, people are saying, well, did he do this as an act of romance or an act of love with Twiggs, and I think he was doing it looking for some kind of validation, right? And it's just my opinion, but almost looking for, you know, like an act of praise. Like he wanted praise for this. He wanted to impress Twiggs. Look what I did for you. Look what I've done for you. And you know, of course, you know, Twiggs even responding, saying that I didn't know you wanted to do something like that. But when you really get into these motivations, and all of this is certainly going to come out at trial, so we're getting, you know, an early look at it, but it's going to be something that comes up, the motivation of what could drive someone to do something so horrible. And I think it doesn't answer all the questions. It in fact gives me many more questions, but it gets you part of the way there.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much speculation that we could engage in when it comes to this. And I, in a sense, want to avoid the speculation and just follow the facts. I think you're correct that it raises a lot of questions. And if I were the FBI, I would pursue some of the questions that you mentioned. Another aspect of the word that you mentioned, this incel culture, would be the lockdowns. Were these individuals subject to social isolation? Were their schools shut down? Were they reduced to being chronically online? Is that when their radicalization or their mental instability began? I'd certainly, if I were the FBI, be interested in looking into that, because it is. I mean, if we're going to try to get an idea of the totality, the context of these individuals, their lives and their beliefs, what motivated Tyler Robinson to commit such a heinous, horrible, evil act, you do have to look at every aspect of what has formed and informed this person, whether it is their religion, their relationship with their family, their political views, their drug use, their alcohol use, their friendships, their online habits, their sexual habits. All of these things play into it and form the totality of evidence. And you have to wonder, or I wonder, I should say, and if I were the FBI, I would be investigating this when this type of chronically online behavior, this foray or experimentation with these extreme things, drugs and sex, furry pornography, specifically the transgender ideology, when that began and where it came from.
Well, I think that's right. And that's actually not that I cite these guys very often, but there was a piece in the New Yorker a couple weeks ago, and it was called "How Monsters Went from Menacing to Misunderstood." And they, just in the subhead, they wrote, "For most of human history, monsters were repugnant aberrations, breaches of the natural and moral order. What's behind our relentless urge to humanize them?" And so I think that's something that, you know, we really as a society have, you know, you call it Disney movies, Pixar, et cetera. You know, we're always sort of looking for, the whole movie series Wicked is about trying to humanize and the Wicked Witch and saying, oh, you know, she was just misunderstood, and actually Dorothy was the bad one, and see, you totally don't get it. And Maleficent was a whole series like this too, also pushed by Disney. And so there's all these things pushed throughout our culture where we take the monstrous and we say, no, it's just misunderstood. But we can't do that from a legal perspective and from a societal justice perspective, can we?
No, and I don't think that that's what this is. I think understanding the totality of what formed the ideology that motivated Tyler Robinson, who is alleged by authorities to have assassinated Charlie Kirk, I think the reason to investigate the background and the context of him and his motivations and his ideological formation is because this is an increasingly common ideology among young men in our country, whether it's these radical trans groups, whether it's in Antifa. There is a lot of left-wing violence that is happening right now in our country, and it is important in order to protect our families and our communities and our nation, the fabric of our nation at large. It's important to understand why this is happening and how these people are being formed into the revolutionaries, these violent revolutionaries that they are, because they aren't born like this, Jack. They're not born Marxists. They're not born murderers. That something happens between the moment they leave the womb and, you know, the moment that they pull the trigger and assassinate our friend Charlie Kirk. Something happened to indoctrinate them into this evil ideology. And you and I are both Catholic. We know that we have been given free will. We as humans have the choice to choose God or to choose Satan. And if Tyler Robinson is convicted of the crime that we think he committed, then we know that he chose evil, and he should be held accountable for that, both in front of his creator and in a just society like ours. No one's trying to step away from that, but larger picture, if we are facing the ongoing threat of similar crimes being committed against those that we love, we need to understand the formation of these people so that we can make an effort as a society to stop it.
It's really as simple as that. And when I served at Guantanamo Bay and came face to face with radical Islam and some of the most horrific radical Islamic killers that our country has ever seen, I still spent time trying to unpack their radical ideology and learning about what it was about radical Islam that made them commit the acts that they did. It didn't mean that it absolved them from the acts or something like that. No, not at all. It was about understanding an ideology and an enemy that was facing my country, my family, that needed to be stopped. We'll be right back. Jack Posobiec, Liz Wheeler.